All right. I think we are online and recording. Welcome, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with our land acknowledgements. We acknowledge the Arapaho, Ute, and Cheyenne tribes, the traditional custodians of the land on which the Police Oversight Panel and Boulder Police Department operate, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. Want to welcome our panel members and any members of the public, the community, and the media. Have anyone with us today? Thanks so much for being here. We're happy you're here. Please use the Q&A if you have questions as we move through the meeting. We'll answer quick questions in the chat, but any longer questions or comments you can save for the public comment session, which will happen hopefully about halfway through the meeting. So we'll get to that in just a bit. And just a couple notes for other panel business. If you need to or would like to submit a complaint, you can do that on our website. Maybe we can put the address in the chat for you. If Selena, you're up for doing that. You can also email the panel anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Police Oversight Panel at bouldercolorado.gov. If you have questions or suggestions or any requests for topics for us, we'd love to hear from you on that as well. And a final reminder, our meetings are posted to the website, so you can watch any past meeting recordings there. And with that, I will start our roll call. Selena, are you able to help us with that?
So when I just went to the panelists, and the hosts for the members of the panel.
Any roll call. Okay. Carrie will roll call. Okay, sorry. No. Lizzie. Present. Kristen.
Absent.
Jason.
Here.
Donnie. Curtis.
Here.
Chico.
Present.
Bill.
Present.
Alan.
Here.
AB. Here. Soledad.
Present.
And Milan. Here. All right, we have more than a quorum, so we'll continue. Just a quick overview of our agenda to give everyone an idea of where we're heading today. We'll start by briefly checking over the minutes from our last meeting. Then we'll go to our community outreach and engagement update from our committee chairs. We'll talk a little bit about our event at the Trident last month. Then we'll go to Sherry for the independent police monitor reports. Following that, we'll go to kind of our panel updates and special business. We'll talk about the case review training manual, scheduling a second session. We'll talk through some training debrief, and finally talk about our strategic workshop, which is planned for May 17th. And we will touch on some items having to do with our email responses. After that, we'll go to public comments, followed by likely a closed session if panel members vote to do that. Then we'll proceed into regular business. We'll do case review voting, assign cases, and then close out for the night. So anyone have any additional agenda items, or would anyone like to move in that we approve the agenda? Great. All in favor of approving the agenda? Anyone against? Great. Agenda is approved. With that, we'll go to the minutes from last month. Does anyone have feedback or comments or changes from the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Great. All in favor of approving the minutes? Great. Anyone against? All right. Minutes are approved. With that, we'll go over to our community outreach and engagement team.
Okay, so we have a meeting on Thursday, so about 36:30, we'll be talking about some other events, mostly more about the trident, and we were there, so please chime in, so. I thought it went really well, so thanks, Noah and Sherry, for setting that up. We can happen, Brian, but he's the manager.
He's the person in charge of events. for the credit.
He was really great to work with, and half the place cleared out when we started, but then people came and filled it back in. And there was a lot of really good questions, I thought, and people were pretty engaged in the conversation. And would love to hear, I know, so that you were there just for the end, but a lot of it was sharing your experiences as well.
Sure. Sure. I agree. I thought it was great. It was really smooth. They were great hosts. You guys did a fantastic job planning that out into the community. I thought it was really successful. We had some great questions from community members, and some great sort of like suggestions for areas they were interested in that I think can help inform some of our strategic workshop items. Yeah, it was great. That answered some tough questions, some good process questions.
What was a good tough question I got asked?
We had some questions, well, we had some like tough questions that were a little outside of our purview, as we always tend to get. But in terms of like what was kind of in the range of stuff we could address, we got some questions about policy changes that we've been able to suggest and actually kind of successfully achieve, which gave us some good ideas for we're planning on putting all of those in our annual report. I think that was helpful to know that that's like, of course, that's something people want to see, not just know that we're out there reviewing pieces and making recommendations, but like, what are we actually achieving with this group? What else?
Kind of like how is what we're doing changing what we say and training what we're seeing. So that was sure we talked a lot about her role.
Yeah, there were some people who were there specifically because they saw that it was on like the schedule of events for Trident, so there's that table in front. So they came with questions and I talked with them afterwards. So yeah, that was really nice to know that there were people who saw it and put it on their own calendar and specifically to attend and ask questions.
Yeah, it was great, especially because we had not advertised it to the city thing, so, that was great that they tried to advertising, because otherwise it would have been. But yeah, it was good that also students were there, they were working on their thing, but they were listening as well, and so I thought that was good. I appreciated the fact that KJMU was there, although I'm not sure that it did anything with what.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
I know that Jackie had to have like something afterward, like couldn't get to it, so maybe I'll get back to them and see if they are going to. But yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of that one, and thank you for organizing it. I was not familiar with the Trident, so but once it was happening, this makes a lot of sense as a good place. So thank you for that idea and for initiating it.
And I think it might be good to do it on a regular basis there. It's relatively easy. And they know us have community conversations like that. So I think it might be like something that we could do like maybe twice a year or something like that. So we know those things.
I was wondering, I think you said, or maybe the reporter person, but did you end up getting any pictures from her? From Jackie? Yeah.
No, they did. They were gonna send me the recording as well, but they haven't. So I'll reach out to them.
Okay, well, if you do get any of that information, I would love to have, because I realized I didn't have any pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll call them.
Okay, thank you.
Anything you think we should do differently?
Advertise it.
Yeah.
Do you have any like a sense how many people showed up just for that?
Probably 5 people, well, 2, 4, 5, maybe like 7, yeah,
So,
actually.
so,
Wow.
I think it was on the city, like, event website, but I don't think people really look at that. So I don't know if
I
there's
think we can
other
advertise
like social
better.
media or something that the city would put out.
Right. Did
Um,
you see it? Did you see it on the website?
So it was on the city, like, there was like a city events website that it was on, that I look at for other things. And it was on there, but again, it's not something that I, think the public typically goes and looks at.
Yeah.
As opposed to looking at like an Instagram or Facebook
Yeah.
feed.
So what would that look like if we were to market it?
I think we could do like posters, I mean, we did go around town and put posters in different places. I think we could do also individually advertise it on our social media. I think some of,
No.
So we have links. so-
and then we
Yeah,
have
we-
newsletter, we should be putting it in our newsletter.
I thought,
It was in the newsletter, okay.
what was it?
I think the timing worked for that to be.
Is there like a citywide? Yeah. Resource needs that would be for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, Shannon, the person who's assigned to us from communications, she's the person who would know how to do that, and I don't know what it takes to. Like, pick up.
So BPD is super active in social media, so do you think that is something that the fund could? What's going on?
Fast.
Because they're super active
Mhm.
on Instagram and Facebook, and people respond a lot to the posting, so maybe that would be. Is it a posting channel?
That's a great idea. Because it is getting out.
I'm not
Our
sure.
designated PIO is, she probably, I think, it was, under Shannon, will be of our, someone who's designated. Yeah.
Did we submit it to the Daily Cameron? Because they have a copy of the top, it's always in the Daily Cameron.
I did not.
So that's something we should probably do. next time.
Yeah.
'Cause I know people look at those things about what's happening, so.
And I'm wondering also like community organizations. We should invite, send it to the organizers.
Yeah.
Or even to, like EFA and AMISTAD.
Yeah.
Other organizations like that where we could do that. So I think maybe we should put our brains together to create like a list of people, organizations that we can market to and places where we can use it.
I mean, even having like a little image. Kind of, whatever, so we can share in our social media,
Yeah.
that is something that is more fire. Basic info.
Just do it like Instagram,
Mhm.
like the image that we can all.
And even advertising these meetings as well. Like the more that we continue to put ourselves out there, weekly, monthly, then people will eventually look for it. I don't think, is there any advertisement for these meetings?
Yeah,
Because they are open to the public.
they are. They're
So-
posted at the Daily Camera.
They're in like the city's meetings every month or something, it says.
But people.
But it's not like
for
by
people
itself.
seeing it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See.
Oh, yeah, who knows?
So maybe if we're all putting it on our socials. And BPD's socials, then people see it.
So I'll probably craft an email with everybody after a Thursday meeting about which groups that you're aware of that we can start to build our own database of folks that we can just blast things out to. But really great first step, so thanks for doing that. I think it was really good, first opportunity, and we'll just keep going.
I think if we had had more people, we would have been there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like as it were, it's just
Oh,
filled
wow.
with 3 hours.
Because, oh yeah, you moved all the way to.
The only thought I had was also like, I should have done it early, but I do like. Maybe us getting an idea of exactly what format of the event is and what that means for what we should prepare. I did not prepare like a intro talking points and I should have, and I could have used that time better. So maybe if we just we asked those questions, did we know we were gonna be like on stage with microphones, like a panel? I didn't realize that, and I'm sure that's on, it was, but, so it's a little bit about how we function, you and I are functioning so differently, like, we were like, let's flow with what's given to us at the time.
No, absolutely not. I need 4 days.
We'll remember that.
So I apologize for that. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be talking to people and we'll flow with what's thrown at us. So I apologize for that.
No,
I
no
realized that we're not like.
This is why you guys are the chairs of the committee,
I'm not.
and I am not.
Still is.
Well, we'll make sure next time you have some coffee.
Yeah.
Because I know that's important. Because you never know what the community's gonna bring, in terms of questions or comments. So that's where you have to do it. So, yeah, so that was it, and then we'll be meeting with Thursday. That's some things coming up. Building on it, and then, the connectors are finally reestablished. They have some meetings already scheduled, so we may not be able to have a joint meeting with them until August. But we can plan that to where we actually come together and have a joint meeting with them. So it's not just a Zoom thing, we can all just talk in person about how we'd like to interact with them and the communities that they're all supported as well. Yeah. That's it.
And we're here, yeah, we'll talk about the different plans that.
Yeah, I think the invite's already out for Thursday, so. Not doing anything, but very.
All right, any other thoughts on community engagement outreach? All right, we'll go to IPS report.
Well, if I may, I mean, I think there is some that's an email about something that we're preparing. For the part of engagement that we're gonna talk on Thursday, but we didn't get email. Right?
Well, great point. Do you want to say anything about that tonight, or do you want to save it for Thursday?
Yeah, we just want to wait till Thursday.
Just that, please don't very much. Yes.
New addition. Yep. Take a look, be ready to discuss.
Monitors report for month of May 2025. Looking at case review data from April 2025, there were 0 case reviews completed. We have 9 that are awaiting review, and 2 of those are scheduled for the next 2 weeks. Cases that were completed, MI 2025-007. Commercial tenant and landlord attended mediation and engaged in a verbal altercation in the lobby. The landlord and his team exited the building, and the landlord was closing the door behind him. The tenant followed and pushed against the closing door. Tenant contacted BPD and alleged that landlord slammed the door in her arm and provided photos of bruising to her arm. Officers interviewed involved parties and obtained the surveillance footage of the interaction at the door. The surveillance footage clearly refutes the tenant's description of the altercation at the door. And the left arm elbow was never slammed. It did not appear to contact any object. So the allegation against Officer 1, Rule 1, violation of General Order 203, investigative responsibilities and case assignment, failed to conduct a sufficient investigation. I recommended that this be unfounded, and the department agreed, so the final determination was unfounded. MI 205009, officers conducted a traffic stop on complainant's vehicle due to not having a functioning license plate. During the stop, complainant repeatedly remarked that Officer 1 was harassing him by pulling him over. The evidence established that complainant's license plate light was not working and provided sufficient probable cause for conducting the traffic stop. Based on the fleet video footage, there is not support for complainant's allegation that Officer 1's actions were intended to harass complainant. Officer 1 approached complainant's vehicle from the rear without observation of either the driver or the passenger. The monitor observed Officer 1 commit a traffic violation, and BPD agreed to coach Officer 1 up. So allegation for Officer 1, Rule 5, police authority and public trust conducted a traffic stop absent probable cause. I recommended that it be unfounded, and the department agreed. And for Rule 4, respect for others, harassment complainant, I recommended that that be unfounded, and the department agreed. Looking at some of our case statistics, for April 2025, the monitor classified 30 complaints. Of those, 13 were identified as misconduct investigations, 1 serious misconduct, 2 community inquiries, 4 community feedbacks, 8 unspecified incidents, and 2 were referred to the conflict facilitation process, which is a mediation. I observed 6 interviews. There were 0 critical incident scene responses. I deemed 3 cases thorough and complete, and 2 cases were closed by. So as of May 8th, the cases that are open between myself and PSU are 41 cases. Of those, 29 are classified. 2 of them were awaiting monitor classification, and 10 of those were in PSU's preliminary investigations. I wanted to share an update on the cases that remain open that were classified in 2004. So we have serious misconduct case 003. That case we are working on scheduling statements currently. MI 2024-065 is in chain of command review. MI 2024-076, that is still in investigation with PSU. 078 is also in chain of command review. 082, the statements are ongoing. And then 083, we have case review scheduled with the panel in the next week, and 084 is also in chain of command review. So hopefully several of these cases will either be closed or come into the panel in the next month or so. I wanted to provide an update on a conversation that I was having with the police department starting last summer. This information is available to the panel in the SharePoint, and it should be uploaded for the public to review. But basically last year in summertime, through interviews with some police department members, I started asking them how many years on the job they had and what their testimony and court experience was if they were relatively new officers. And the answers were basically zero court testimony or 1 time that they testified in court. So I basically shared this information with the department, recognizing that due to some of the situations in the Boulder criminal justice system, these officers aren't getting the normal feedback from the state's attorney and from the opportunity to testify in court, which really pressure tests not only their ability to testify, but their report writing ability to make sure that they are getting that experience to make sure that their reports meet all of the requirements that are going to be needed to be upheld in court, and then the ability to testify. So I brought that to the attention of BPD leadership, and they're pretty agreeable, and I asked for an official response from Chief Redfern, and he said that they are going to have training with the officers on courtroom testifying. It's going to be done by the district attorney's office, and that's scheduled for Q3 training in 2025. Following up with what actually happens in order to the others. Some of the community engagement or other events that I was involved with in the month of April. I attended the Boulder County District Attorneys training for BPD, on the Fourth and Fifth Amendment, and this was an 8-hour training that came about in part because of recommendations from the oversight system. So all of the officers of the department received that training. It was very informative. I also attended the training for the sergeants regarding the Spanish traffic form that was shown to us at the meeting of the chief. We did BPD panel training, panel case review training, and I presented at New Vista High School to their street law class. I also attended Dr. Lord's Declaration of Respect, that public presentation, tabled at the CU Civic Engagement event, attended the Boulder County Justice Forum, and shared the stage with y'all at the Trident engagement event. And I also visited the Denver office of the Independent Monitor to speak with some of their department heads about how they are handling different issues. That's my report. Any questions?
Interesting takeaways from the Denver conversation.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I knew this before, but listening to their community engagement, they have a very robust team for community engagement. So they do a lot of events with youth, like hours-long training that has like know your rights and oversight incorporated into it. And they also, their Denver Police Academy recruits, they have a 2-week period, not just with oversight, but where they take them to some of the different neighborhoods to explain the history of different neighborhoods, and some of the cultures of different neighborhoods in Denver. So it seems like before the Denver police get into what you think of as more traditional police academy, they have more of a get to know Denver, and these are some of your expectations. And the monitor's office, I think, has a half day or a day as far as that.
When we were at Maple last time, we were talking with them and they were like, we should definitely. So I'm just wondering if it could be like a field trip for the panel to go and kind of just help them, and then just talk with them and just learn from them as well, because they have so many great ideas and so many good ways of doing things. I think it would be great for us to, for whoever in this panel can make it to go there and actually have a meeting with them.
I could definitely, if you want to, I can reach out to monitor in Denver.
Yeah. See if that would be.
Or maybe I'll link the to you.
I mean, yeah, I would like to organize something like that. I see.
Give me enough time to write down your.
I'll come back maybe later.
I think you know how to reach out.
Yeah.
Oh, taking over. Okay, next in our agenda, panel updates, guest speakers, ad hoc items. So first, of those is case review training manual and scheduling the second session.
I would just like to share that I think it was April 21st, I think, we had, our consultant, Farah Muscadin, put together a training, which many of you attended. It was using a mock piece from Chicago. I do plan on doing a second one. I guess this actually folds into the strategic workshop. Bring your calendars. Because I hope one of the things that we can do is come out with some dates that might work for scheduling that second piece review meeting.
Is it going through the same?
Yeah.
Process?
Yeah. If you did the first time, you don't need to do the second. In fact, probably you should.
It was good.
It was working.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my plan was also to, I belatedly realized I should have invited the alternates to join also. So for that second one, once we figure out a time that works with the panel members who have limited case review experience and miss the first one, then we'll get that on the calendar and I'll invite the alternates.
Excellent. Next, we have April 11th, UPD training debrief. It's a month already. It's like 2 years. All right, so, any thoughts, anyone wants to share on how that training went?
Yeah.
You were the person who was probably the most new experience.
Yeah, I thought it went really well. It was really interesting to hear their way of approaching situations, and how they look at force and understanding the thought process that goes into how they classify an individual, and what force comes with that classification. Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was really good to get a deep understanding of that.
We did not, because even though we think we're building in time for questions, we've never built in time for questions. So defensive tactics is still something that's going to be taught at the police department. There've been several requests from the panel. We can also talk more about that on Saturday. But I expect several different training modules, the most important being defensive tactics. What about the two of you who, this wasn't your first time?
Yeah, I just want to add that as, I want to say as usual, but once again, I think that for me, the theme is how differently we understand de-escalation. And I don't mean any criticism on this, but rather like kind of being aware that the effort needs to be put on aligning those, kind of the use of the word escalation. And of course, for Boulder PD, de-escalation had kind of one meaning. For members of the community, de-escalation looks entirely different. So I think having that conversation again and kind of the understanding, I think we're reaching a point where it was clear, at least in our conversation with Alistair, that they also see how that there's a difference in the use of the language. So that for me is something that we can build upon moving forward.
I think like the conversation with Alistair at the end was like, we need to find, the police department needs to find a different ways of a new term for what is this de-escalation for them, because they realize that not only in the community, but everywhere else, like everywhere else outside of the it's called something else, but it means something else. And so de-escalation is a word, but what truth, finding a term that truly works for what it is really is more complicated. And so that's where the problem lies. I think it's just for people to have to bring together to find a better words than de-escalation.
Differentiate for what it is.
I'm sorry?
Do they differentiate for what it is?
I think BPD and law enforcement use de-escalation in a consistent manner.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Word in itself. The word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, even when BPD is responding with CERT, which is the crisis response team, so they are trained mental health professionals. For them, de-escalation is a non-violent approach,
Now I
right?
understand what you're saying.
But for PD, de-escalation might be holding someone,
Right.
to the ground and preventing further engagement, right?
Okay.
So
That, no, I understand.
that's kind of different. So then when we talk about de-escalation for law enforcement is that, of course, we're de-escalating. And for us, it's like, well, you're not this is not de-escalation, like putting handcuff for someone.
So it's not just the word.
It's
Changing
the
word,
concept.
yes, the whole concept, and it's the tone and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah,
How they view what they're training, how they view de-escalation.
And I think mostly is that the misalignment.
It's the
Right.
misalignment of the word they use is not in agreement with what everybody else public is using.
One is physical, the other one's emotional.
Yeah, and so it's not the concept, like we're not asking the police necessarily to be doing the work that CERT's doing, right? But if they're gonna take someone down, then if what is now de-escalation is taking down someone and putting them in handcuffs so that they cannot harm anyone else, that's valid, but it cannot be de-escalation because that person is very escalated and we've done violence, by putting handcuffs on that person. And so it's really a matter of calling a spade, like it's really a matter of finding the right term, like it's not always a takedown, it's not always, but it is. I just had a term, but it's really a
So you're describing with
power
force.
over
Yeah,
a
you're-
person.
Okay, so you're describing force, like. You would say. So finding a different word, how does that actually work though? Because the
that would have a
action's still the
definition.
same.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to change the action, we're trying to change the meaning of the word de-escalation. Because when police say to the community members, we de-escalated the situation, we think that, oh, great, everybody care bear time, everybody's happy and everybody is able to go their merry way. But that's not the case, that person might be in jail, right? So when they're using the term de-escalation, we understand something completely different.
See, that's where I'm confused. Because when police use the word de-escalation, I automatically know what they mean.
You know that.
Yeah, I
what
know
is-
that
what
it's
is-
gonna involve some force and they're taking control of the environment. By any
So I'm
means
gonna change
possible.
what I just said.
Right,
The white community in Boulder doesn't understand the same thing. De-escalation is really, let me talk to you, tell me why you're in a crisis. Maybe you could talk more about this, Curtis, but it's really like,
I don't think that when I think of de-escalation. When I think of police, when I think of counselors or teachers, or I'm not even thinking white community, I'm thinking any conversation or anything that we have when we talk about de-escalation in the community, it does mean something different. I understand that. But when you think about that with the police, I automatically think that there's going to be force involved. And most people that I know think that are white as well.
most people.
Really?
And.
They think it's gonna mean something else with the police involved? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
It seems to me that, I went to the training last year and, what struck me was they take sometimes an hour to get a situation under control without having to, they do everything except lay them down or put them in cuffs or whatever they do.
Yeah,
And that was what was so impressive to me is they're very patient, the Boulder PD is very patient based on this training that I went to. But at the same time, if we're trying to figure out how this sector of the community looks at it versus another sector of the community, seems to me that's a good, rather than us sitting around thinking about this, what about if we, sounds to me like a focus group question about what is show of force or what is
I'm not asking
de-escalation?
anybody to do anything, I'm just like, if we think about a word, we could suggest.
But see, I don't think it's
But
just a
that's
word,
their
I
job.
think it's more of a story. And
Yeah,
I think we have to come up with a better story about it, because, I have total different perspectives about that, we're brown. And, I don't get offended at all in fact, even when I went on this police ride with this guy, we had to de-escalate a couple situations, and
there were a lot of words involved. When
there
I
was a lot,
I was,
yeah,
at
there's a
one
lot of
point, I
talking
was
and
thinking
there's a
there's,
lot of,
at one point I was like,
positioning.
can you just stop talking and let's get out of here? Because we were there for like 45 minutes to an hour and I'm like,
I
At
kind
some
of think
point,
like it should
stop
be more
talking.
than, like, I think the result is the same, de-escalation, but I
Right.
think like maybe it's just more descriptive, whether it's verbal de-escalation or some kind of a physical de-escalation. So maybe just like an addition to the de-escalation word, like it was verbal or or physical. Is that?
I mean, I brought up the concept because that's the conversation that we had at the end of the training with Alistair. And I think that there is a common understanding that the use of de-escalation by CERT or by some community members is different than the use of the word de-escalation for police. And acknowledging that that might be a misalignment there is important, because then when we talk with community members or when the police said, oh, we're de-escalating the situation, and actually it doesn't look anything like de-escalation might mean for me that I work in victim advocacy. We can get to a shared understanding of what we're talking about. So we're not challenging how anyone is doing anything, we're just acknowledging that the use of the term de-escalation might be different and sometimes might lead to misunderstanding. And I think that was, for me, that what I'm trying to bring up from that is that acknowledging that is a huge step forward. Because then we're not talking about pears and pears, and you're talking actually about strawberries, and oh yeah, the pears. No, we now know what we're talking about. And we acknowledge there's difference, and we can talk about
That's what I think, like just
it,
adding.
you
like,
know? Yeah, the
something simple as
descriptive,
adding, like, whether it's verbal de-escalation versus some
Yeah.
sort of physical de-escalation.
Yeah.
And I think if you say physical de-escalation, I think people might automatically understand that they had to, put their hands on somebody to get them to de-escalate.
Yeah.
As opposed to they talk this person down out of their, whatever state they were in to more calm demeanor.
and to that point, also, we can acknowledge that we may have different expectations from the escalation. So for an incident, PD might take 2 hours in the escalated situation. While for me, to escalate someone who should be, we shouldn't be here 5 hours trying to solve this, right? So I think that in my perspective, that acknowledgement is a huge step forward. We don't need to fix it. We don't need to define things in a different way. We just need to acknowledge that people refer to, things, same word, different meaning, and then we can build from there. And we see that in complaints,
What do you want to build from there?
just a shared understanding. So I'm not questioning what they're doing, challenging the use of the word de-escalation. It's just acknowledging that for me, de-escalation is a different thing and they are using it in a different way,
And then what do we build from there?
Besides the common understanding that there are two different situations and different ways of using that word. Like, at least once the community understands that de-escalation is this, and maybe physical de-escalation is that, or any other word, then we can actually start talking to each other and understanding exactly what we're talking about. Because last year, when we went through the training and they showed us de-escalation on the mat,
Yeah.
I was shocked.
And I wasn't, because I just
Sure.
figured that these are police, they're coming in to do something. And if the community, whoever they're coming to arrest or de-escalate or whatever, if they're offering any sort of resistance, what are they supposed to do? Because that was the mat scene, because I was in there with you.
Yeah.
So that, the person was offering resistance. So they were de-escalating in there with their badges and guns and everything else. No one got shot in that
Sure.
in that scene, in that, but what are people expecting if someone's offering resistance? What does de-escalation
It's
mean?
not that we're expecting any other actions, it's that we're expecting not to use that word in particular.
Okay,
And then I've talked to lawyers who are doing criminal law.
Right.
And when I said, do you know that what the definition of de-escalation is for the police, they were actually shocked. They were like, oh, you're right, that I need to pay attention to that. Because
Okay.
that's not the way they use it in criminal law. And so that, to me, is really telling that even lawyers don't have the same definition, you know, and so that's why the word is important, like,
Okay, I understand now.
I understand what you're saying completely. Yes, there is.
Well,
If
when
that
you put, when you
situation,
put attorneys in it for criminal defense, if they're not on the same page with you.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I understand that they should definitely be aligned.
Yeah.
We got a little bit off with, the community part of
right,
it,
okay,
because the community, I don't know why anyone would be confused there.
Because their experiences.
Chico has his hand up. Chico?
I was gonna say that for our purposes, maybe the way forward would be to, like somebody suggested, that maybe we have the distinction of verbal versus physical de-escalation. Would that suffice?
I think it's not for us to solve this issue. I think we're just bringing it up to everybody's awareness. Alistair and someone else who was there, I forget who it was, were talking about the need for themselves, for the BPD to rethink how they use de-escalation. So I don't think it's for us. If we have an idea, we can always suggest it, but it's not something for us to necessarily work on. But it's something to keep in mind and to pay attention to as we move forward. And we might see changes as Sterling was suggesting, you know. The alignment is important, so it's a great thing that they're actually thinking about strategizing or working on finding a term or an explanation of what that process is for them. So
The only other thing I would add is, I don't think it's really, only specific to law enforcement or like physical de-escalation is, I think. I know like in schools, like it's called de-escalation to physically grab a student who's acting out to get them to try to calm down, and same thing in hospital settings. You're like to physically grab a patient to. The end goal is to de-escalate them, so it's not specific to law enforcement that has that definition.
no, I'm actually really interested in looking into the different ways they use the term is used.
But again, I think just a little bit more descriptive might be
Yeah.
helpful.
I think that.
Really, it's just recognizing like every word in our language, that there's perceptual and actualization differences. When we're talking about it, we just need to be really clear what we're talking about in each scenario, so that people who aren't sure, and then what we're talking about. Police de-escalation, it could be something physical versus we're talking certain type of de-escalation, it's more just the emotional aspect. So, yeah, so I don't think there's anything for us to do, it's just a recognition that everybody has different perceptions.
And I have maybe a different perspective.
Okay.
Please, share.
And one, let me just say that I don't think anybody has really made this decision. But the idea is that I think sometimes, I always look at de-escalation as what you do in order to avoid using force. Okay? And I reckon somebody cuffs their chances of harm. That does ultimately de-escalate. I don't think that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to something else. And so I guess we could say physical and non-physical de-escalation, but I would just rather say de-escalation with the use of force. I think that's the delineation. I think anything where they cross over. I know this is a word that is somewhat loaded, but it starts to cool off the word and mean nothing, which I think is what we're talking about. And what I've read about is talking about what I've read, de-escalation, where it came from, none of it had to do with use of force. It all had to do with creating an environment where the person who we're worried about will agree with law enforcement on their own. That's not finished. But I of course recognize that at times there's these two, I don't have a problem.
So it's good we don't have to solve for it, we'll just make suggestions.
I think it's just the awareness. Oh, we know that we're might be talking about two different things.
Always
Great to
valid
know.
points.
Yeah, yeah. it's just- Anyway, let's. Strategic workshop, May 17th to Wednesday. So this is Saturday.
Saturday morning.
I have a question about that. We're gonna reach out to towns. So they're gonna be on Zoom also, or no?
Yeah, it needs to be a public meeting, so there will be some access for.
Okay.
Please, please.
I'll be able to zoom in.
Oh.
What's the time of it?
9 to noon.
Yes, oh, that'll be in Colorado, I can.
That's great.
Something calendar, 8:30 in there, is that just for like?
The idea is that like, you know, breakfast, coffee, get settled. One important just logistical thing that I don't think I can say or type enough is that the farmer's market is happening, so these parking lots are likely to be filled up. So,
It's free in the garages.
right, I'm just, if you think you're gonna come in, like,
Oh,
you know, drive by and be in the building in 30 seconds.
So
That's,
it's gonna be here.
yes. Yeah, yes.
We're using this one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So this was brought up by co-chairs as, you know, having having it be an agenda item, you know, in a monthly meeting doesn't really allow for the deeper conversations for longer term prioritization and planning. So that's one of the main reasons for having the workshop. And the like 3 takeaways, or the 3 like pillars of takeaways. One is training goals, what the panel feels like they want training to happen in the next 12 months, ways to make training better. And then community engagement also. What are some of our main community engagement goals for, you know, for this next 12 months? What does that look like? What does panel participation in it look like? And then most importantly, what are the panel's priorities? What are the things that the panel, outside of just regular case reviews, wants to work forward, develop a plan, and then put resources towards it. So it's not just like, oh, I had an idea, or I read that some other place was doing this, but being more thoughtful about it. So that like project management, not on Saturday, but moving forward, you can say these are the, you know, 1 to however many things that the panel really wants to dedicate their limited resources. Is that encapsulated? Cheers. Yep. So bring your ideas and definitely bring stuff for these schedules, and if you have events that you think it would be that the panel should consider, then that's a great opportunity to share. Oh, I consider that under the priorities, but yes, absolutely. Ideas for.
So next, this is our side panel at bouldercorral.gov, email response. How are we talking about? I can see that.
I can't for the life of me remember what this is. This was because the panel was another conversation that came out of the coaches meetings. Because the panel has recently received complainants who've reached out directly to the police oversight panel and trying to find a way that is realistic for you all to respond if you choose to. But also not, I looked into, the suggestion was made to see if they could get like an automatic response, you know, like someone should get back to you within like 72 hours. I just got the response today, the IT ticket I submitted, which was like, that functionality is not available. So I think I need to try to email back and see if there is something along that way, because like if everyone put their message set to that, then I would get like 11 out of office or automatic responses. But it's trying to figure out how the panel can be responsive to members of the public who reach out, but also give them, you know, the expectation that you're not going to get, you know, back in 20 minutes. It might take a while because it's volunteers who are. And then what the response should be. So that's my understanding. Yeah, to refresh it.
So basically, there's two topics on when we received an email. One is a timely acknowledgement that we received an email. Three, I should say. Two is how long you actually send a meaningful response other than thank you for emailing us, we'll see you. And three is coming up with a way of responding in a timely manner, in a meaningful way, when the whole panel is emailed. So is that what we were, let me see anything, right?
Just thoughts from the group of.
I don't respond to any of it, and I figured if there is a response, it's come from one of you, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's
So
how I look at it. It's pretty simple to me.
Like a designated person that
Our
responds.
co-chairs.
Our co-chairs,
We have
yeah.
two
Right.
co-chairs, so. they
So
should be the-
per bylaws, we have to respond. But I guess what we were talking about is that we respond in representation of the whole panel. So wondering if the panel would like a time frame to provide input, like what if we, you know, don't agree, or are we okay just letting the co-chairs take the response in a smart general way? Especially when there is a complaint. I guess there is a difference. And we know what to do with certain emails, that when there is a complaint itself, we will refer them to the process of filing a complaint. Send it to Sherry.
One of them was all about the Moore County Sheriff. That's not even our purview, and
Yeah,
one was just somebody who's ramblings. I don't even know how you would respond to that. So,
Yeah, I think the question is like, would you all like any sort of insight into or feedback on or any participation directly in that, or are you okay? I think it traditionally has been the co-chairs just sort of respond off thread, we don't CC the whole panel. Are we allowed, would that be an issue if we did? If it was a PCC? I don't know. If it's not a meeting, or you guys would like us to PCC you all on responses, just figure the loop?
Yeah, I think it would be nice for us to know what the response is and that it has been responded, at least personally, I would like to be.
Or like, if we're putting it in your hands and because you're the co-chairs, if it's something that you think needs our attention, like Sherry kind of does, is this something that the panel really needs to be a part of? Because all of that, we don't need it.
No.
You know? But if it's something that you think the whole panel needs to weigh in on, then maybe that's when you share it. But not all of them need to be shared.
I'm wondering if you could send us your response before you send to the person for feedback. And then we, either we, and say, you know, we're gonna send it tomorrow, in 24 hours.
That's kind of the question on the
Yeah.
table. I guess
Yeah.
maybe I like,
Yeah.
maybe, this is again, asking us to make some judgment calls, so you guys would be comfortable with this, but maybe if it's relatively standard business, like the two emails you mentioned, I responded to one of those and said like, for emailing us, we appreciate it, here's some info, right? If it's standard business, maybe we respond and we CC you guys, you can stay as in the loop or as, you know, as much or as little as you like. But if it's something with some substance, we do a 24-hour, only if you would like review on a response. Is that, would that kind of meet everyone's needs maybe?
My fear is that we'll get so many, we'll be inundated as a group, so many emails that we'll have to figure out what's important emails, what aren't important, kind of like those school emails that we get over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So if you guys are in charge of that, we trust you to do this, 3 or 2.
Two.
Of the 2, then send us the ones that you feel like this really needs to be a panel thing. Other than that, like the sheriff thing, why would you send, I don't want to see that, because then I'm gonna think it's important.
Yeah,
Then I'm opening up the email that has nothing to do with anything, but you handled it, you know?
yeah, that's really what we're just hoping to get group consensus on. Pace is not overwhelming, like, we don't get. I haven't yet, anyway, since joining as a chair, I haven't gotten chair only emails that would go back to you, so it's really, you guys have seen the pace and if you want more response
Okay, cool.
for those. And we could always adjust as we go, but like. I'm totally open to either of those. I think they will submit good solutions based on what more people prefer. Anyone have strong feelings?
I
Yeah,
like
that's what
your
you're-
response, not because I don't trust you, but because I like to know that if that person has been taken care of. That's.
And we
that's
can
the
also
only reason.
CC you on everything and not.
I don't- I don't wanna have special status.
I'm okay with that. I am really okay with that.
You tell me you responded to it, that's all.
How
Yeah,
about for the
okay.
next month to set, like, can we try the BCC and then next meeting, we can say if this is annoying to more folks, then it is helpful. Back up. Does that work?
So for you, maybe,
I mean,
maybe you could put like, read if you want, like something in before, like,
or
Not-
important.
yeah, not important, or, you know.
Yeah.
Response
to
to,
BCC, I don't wanna put that in the.
all right.
Yeah, I don't think a member of the public wants to decide.
Yeah, no, I really think
Read.
this will be pretty minimal and
Yeah, I
unobtrusive.
think,
And see how it goes.
yeah.
Well, the word timely, since we're using different words these days, I want timely. And we know that we have to look at it and get back in a timely fashion.
Yeah, sure.
But if it doesn't say timely, then we can ignore it.
Fill it out. Let's see how the next month goes.
Okay, so let's keep moving. We have public comment right now. So I'm gonna, do we have members of the public?
Nope.
No. Okay, well, I'm gonna say. So, every member of the public will be asked if they would like to comment and, unmute to, provide the comment. They will get 2 uninterrupted minutes to comment. If there is an interruption or loss of connection, we will stop the clock. Co-chairs will give a verbal notice at 20 seconds to the end. And, the city staff facilitator will mute the feed at 2 minutes. Panelists may offer short responses at the end of the comment, and the co-chairs will pause after each comment to facilitate. I don't see any members, so I think we can keep moving,
Here's proof.
right? Okay.
Yeah, there's nobody.
Perfect, thank you. The panel will need to take a 5-minute break, and we return to closed session, and after that, that should take about 25 to 30 minutes. After, closed session, we'll be back with regular business, case review, voting and assignments, and then we will be ready to adjourn. So, should we vote?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's vote in the closed sessions, we lost one, but,
Motion for closed session.
yeah. Okay. Vote to go,
Wait, I'm sorry, who seconded?
please.
Oh.
Quietly, sorry.
So we're voting, everyone in favor, okay, we're good, except for Anna and Chico. Voting, yes, okay. Okay, so let's take 5-minute break, and go to closed session afterwards.
How long is closed session for?
30 minutes. 25 to 30. 30.
Okay.
Okay.
And there's a lot today.
Okay.
So regard, okay, we're back into regular business. And we're gonna do case review voting.
Keep going.
So My please. Okay. Final numbers, on SM 2025-002. Sherry,
Lizzie. Yes. Jason,
Yes.
Donna's not here. Curtis,
Yes.
Chico,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
AB,
Yes.
Soledad,
yes,
Milan.
Yes.
okay. MI 2025-010.
Lizzie. No. Jason,
No.
Curtis,
No.
Chico,
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
No,
Milan.
No.
okay. MI 2025-011.
Lizzie. Yes. Jason,
This is the delayed to vote one, right?
Mhm.
Okay. With sealed court records, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Thank you.
Which are still sealed.
No.
That's what I thought you were
Curtis,
gonna say.
Chico,
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
No,
Milan.
No.
okay, MI 2025-012.
Lizzie. No. Jason,
No.
Curtis. Chico,
No.
Bill.
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
No,
Milan.
Yes.
MI 2025-013.
Lizzie. Yes. Jason. Curtis,
Yes.
Chico,
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
Yes,
Milan.
Yes.
Selena, is that
That's
yeses?
4 yeses and 5 noes.
MI 2025-014.
Lizzie. No. Jason.
No.
Curtis. No. Chico.
No.
Sorry, can you slow down?
Oh.
I can't write that fast.
That's all right. Yeah, of course.
Curtis, what was that? I'm sorry.
Absolutely no.
Chico said,
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
No,
Milan.
No.
okay, MI 2025-015.
Lizzie. No. Jason.
Nope.
Curtis. Chico.
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad.
No.
Milan.
No.
Okay, MI 2025-016.
Lizzie. Yes. Jason. Chico.
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad.
No.
And Milan.
Yes.
Okay, MI 2025-017.
Okay. Lizzie. No. Jason.
No.
Curtis. Chica,
No.
No.
Alan,
No.
AB,
No.
Soledad, no. No.
MI 2025-018.
Lizzie. Jason. Curtis.
Yes.
Chica,
No.
Bill,
No.
Alan,
Yes.
AB,
No.
Soledad,
Yes.
Dylan.
Yes.
MI 2020, sorry.
What's the?
It was yes, 5 yeses and 4 nos.
That's right.
Okay, MI 2025-019.
Lizzie? No. Jason?
No.
Curtis?
No.
Chico?
No.
Bill?
No.
Alan?
No.
Eden?
No.
Soledad?
No.
Dylan? No.
Yeah,
Okay, MI 2025-020.
Lizzie? Jason?
No.
Curtis?
Yes.
Chico?
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah.
Alan?
Yes.
AB?
Yes.
Soledad?
Yes.
Dylan?
Yes.
MI 2024-2025-021.
Lizzie? Jason? Curtis? Chico?
No.
Alan?
No.
AB? No. Soledad? Dylan? No.
No, very ugly.
Oh, no, did I do? I'm so sorry. Bill?
Okay.
When do you first?
Oh.
sad.
Bill, I see. MI 2025-022.
Lizzie? Yes. Jason?
No.
Curtis? Chico?
No.
Bill?
No.
Alan?
Yes.
AB?
No.
Soledad?
Yes.
Dylan?
Yes.
So,
yeah, that one's enough.
so I have SMO 2, MI 18, and MI 20.
I have a question. So I voted yes on some of these because, so for example, on this last one, there's a recommendation that Officer 1 receive coaching. So I presume that's something that you're going to suggest anyway.
Okay, did we vote on the 3 cases? Okay. So On SM 2025-002. Volunteers.
Can you repeat what are we doing there?
002
SM,
SM 2025-002.
I'm raising my hand. I assume you are picking people who now do. I didn't get what you said.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
voting, I mean, we're assigning names. So we
Yeah.
have AD, Milan, and Bus.
You can add me as well.
Yes, you're in. Thank you.
Thank you.
On MI 2025-018. Volunteers. Okay. Vulnerable. Okay. Pardon. Milan, no, yeah.
Well, if nobody else. I would actually like 4 on this, just because Curtis, his first one would need to be,
Okay.
and I just don't know what the sequence of cases can be.
Okay, 3, we want more.
What's the general size of this one? Yeah, 2 of the previous would be like a lot. Yeah, it's just like we could, like we could tailor some evidence of like if they're talking to witnesses or things like that, you know, like if we just go through the body. Then it could be not. But normally PSU provides, you know, more, so that's.
Okay, do you still want one more?
I mean, I would,
Of course. Any other volunteer to accompany us? So Curtis, Milan, myself. No? Okay. One more. Lisa?
in there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last case, MI 2025-020. Okay, Bill, Milan. AB. Lizzie. Of course. Curtis.
The whole panel.
Okay, again, so AB. Curtis. Milan, Lizzie.
You can.
Lizzie, Bill,
Okay.
Milan, AB, and Curtis.
I mean, when there are more than 3, we need 3 people.
Minimum.
But if there's a situation where we have, you know, 7 people sign up, someone dipping at that time. I think it-
Okay.
As long as we have confirmation that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not. I would assume that the first one coming from this group of cases, just because my experience is that the experience in other cases, they push through usually. So that's probably the first one.
Okay. So we will wrap up. We need a motion to adjourn. Second. Okay, Bill and Milan. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you, Chico, for joining.
Thank you. See you Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Thanks for getting us out on time.
Oh,
Oh, 8:30.
that is masterful.
You did that very well.
Oh, my God.
So-
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the brilliant. Walking